You didn't opt out of work this morning?
No.
No.
I'm not Gen Z.
Well, let's talk about that.
Most of Gen Z will be going to work or in education or training.
Well, 3 out of 4 of them might. According to your front page, Andrew, this morning, there's 1 in 4 under 25s don't want a job. And the most commonly given reason is their mental health. Explain, what's happening to us?
A lot of this has happened since the pandemic, and they've got to get a grip of this because we've now got, I think it's 22% of the working population is not in work because of a lot of it is to do with mental health issues, and they're living on the benefits. Benefits are supposed to be a safety net, not a way of life, and it's
But why specifically under 25s?
Well,
is that the hotspot?
It's because I think Wes Streeting said yesterday, the Health Secretary, we are over-diagnosing mental health, and he's right.
But yeah, but first of all, you get diagnosed by a doctor. You don't diagnose yourself and just turn up and say, "Can I have some money,
how do you get to see a
please?"
doctor?
That 22% figure, it's about 9 million of the workforce. That includes students while they're working. It includes people who are caring for others at home. And it includes people who've retired early. So I think that figure gives a wrong impression about Britain. For that figure, 1 in 4 thinking of giving up work, well, they haven't given up work. They're thinking of it. I'd like to see a previous figure so you can gauge how that has affected over a period of time. Because it's often younger people, particularly if you live at home, you almost have an option. You can say, right, I'm going to give up work and I'll live off mum and dad for a while. You have options. And I would also like to see what the figure is, say, for people 60 to 66 who are working, whether they're thinking of giving up work. Because you tend to have the people who can give up work tend to be younger and older, while those in the middle, if you're bringing up kids and you have a mortgage, you can't.
I don't think there's a generational change going on, because certainly when I think back to all the kids who left school when I did, some of my contemporaries who went to university and then left university and got jobs, it never occurred to them not to go to work. It simply wasn't a factor in their life plan. There does seem to have been a generational shift.
Yeah, I agree.
However you quibble about the figures, and you're right to, there does seem to be a trend that young people think that not going to work is an option for them. It's a life option.
Because they can have benefits that weren't around as much. And I think it's an absolute crisis.
So,
an absolute crisis.
The Health Secretary yesterday on the Laura Kuenssberg show, which I was a panellist on, so I was sitting in the studio when he was asked by Laura Kuenssberg about this report that neurologist Suzanne O'Sullivan thinks that modern healthcare is over-diagnosing people, not necessarily making them healthier, but perhaps doing more harm than good. She says we did have an underdiagnosis problem in the past, particularly with problems like autism, ADHD. We didn't recognise people who needed help, but we've overcorrected. We've been working on the assumption that the more we diagnose, the healthier you can make the population. That was probably true to a point, but the improvement isn't sustained. Evan, I think a lot of people watching may agree, generically, there seems to be an overdiagnosis. Everybody, this kind of stereotype cliche, everybody's got something right now. If you are actually someone with a condition, it is almost impossible to see a doctor. It's almost impossible to see a GP anyway. But if you want to see someone about anxiety or depression or to have ADHD or autism diagnosed, I think there will be viewers going, overdiagnosis, I can't even get an appointment with a mental health professional. Yeah, the health service that the UK Health Secretary now runs directly in England, where he's got rid of NHS England, he's taken direct control. So, no, what he said will have stuck in the throats of a lot of people. And, of course, there are other people who are diagnosed, and they're diagnosed correctly. They might have ADHD. They might be registered disabled. They might be blind. They might be wheelchair users, and they go to work too. They work like everyone else. I think this is often lost in the debate, this idea that people, it's a work-shy country. We're not a work-shy country. We work longer hours than most of the European countries. We have fewer bank holidays.
Millions of people not working.
And
what's wrong with why have we got this mental health crisis of all of a sudden in the last 5 years? Where did it come from? Because of COVID. And people work from home and they don't want to go back to work, and that's part of the problem. And we have got a crisis here, and the welfare system is about to burst.
So if Streeting is right,
it's about
and
to
we are
break down.
misdiagnosing too often people who actually don't have mental health issues, but we're giving them that diagnosis, what's going on there? Is it overzealous GPs, oversensitive GPs, or is it more and more people swinging the lead?
Got to be a bit of the latter.
I don't know where the evidence is, though, because we're sort of smearing a whole group of people who've waited months to get a diagnosis.
How can we have nearly 10 million people are economically inactive for working?
I've just told you where a large part of it is, and you just ignore it. It's students, people looking after other people at home, people who've retired early.
Kevin, you can defend them as much as you like.
I'm not explaining it.
It's more than a fifth of the working population are not going to work. They are too many of them.
People who retired early, people at home looking after others.
Does not explain
they are a large chunk of that 10 million.
But what about the rest of the chunk? There are a lot of people swinging the lead. They are.
You can do that.
Yeah, they are.
You can do it.
And that's what the health secretary said. It's over-diagnosing mental health, and that's what he's trying to say.
You can do it.
He wouldn't put it so bluntly.
So what are we going to do about it?
Stop doing it.
One of the think tanks last week showed that the biggest increase in the 1 million people extra who are now registered, sick and disabled, receiving benefits, the majority was just a small majority, but it was a majority, are mental health issues. Well, let's tackle the mental health issues. But a lot of people with mental health conditions, physical conditions, disabled, go to work too. Let's not forget this when you're paying everyone as work shy.
But you defend everybody. You're always on the side of the skivers.
No, I think Kevin and I both probably agree that until we can see the evidence, it's because what do we do? Reassess every single person?
I do not believe 22% of the working population is not fit for work. I don't believe it.
No, students, people who retired early.
I don't believe
people who are looking others at home are in that 22%.
And that's why the benefits bill has gone through the roof and why this government said they were going to try and cut it, and now they've backed off.